Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hello, everybody. Oh, man, it is amazing what a beautiful sunny day will do to lift you up, regardless of what craziness is going on in the world. Before we dive in, let's thank our sponsors. Thank you to Source Solar for making these conversations possible. Go to source.solar and find out about the great work they do. Over 100,000 happy customers with solar panels on their homes and businesses. Make an appointment and see if the time is right for you. Also, thank you to Kirk Bankstead and Minocqua Brewing Company. You guys, I'm falling behind. I need your help because it's kind of, I just got a spreadsheet yesterday of all the columnists that write for the Minocqua Brewing Company newsletter. And our guest, Ben Cominos, will join us at 6:30. And we get paid by the number of orders that are placed for Woke Coffee. And if you don't order a certain number, I'm not going to get it. I mean, I do it from my heart, for my passion of what's going on and talking about resistance. But it would also help if I got a little coin. That's all I'm saying. So go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and subscribe to the newsletter. And we will be broadcasting from the Madison Tap Room on March 25th. So please, if you have the opportunity to join us there, it'd be great to see you. We also want to thank our friends at The Way Back In. We'll be talking to our friends from The Way Back In coming up at 6 o'clock. I believe that's today. Everything is so crazy. At any rate, let me see. Yes, that's right. Are you really winning is part of the campaign this month. For March is Gambling Awareness Month. If you or someone you know is struggling with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit areyoureallywinning.com. And of course, our friends at Kids Above All, thank you for your continued support over the years. And please visit their website and support their mission to help children live happy, healthy, safe lives. And I'm excited because a friend of mine, a fellow comedian, just joined me in studio, and we worked together last week at Tata's. You can bring that microphone. Just swing that over, Jaime. We were actually talking about your name when we were at the club the other night.
Yes.
But do you go by Jaime or Jamie?
Always Jaime.
Oh yes. Okay. Yeah. Do you remember did you know the bartender at Zany's, Jaime? His name was Jaime. So it's not like I was asking you.
Maybe I'm bad with names, including my own.
He always went by Jamie. I had known him.
And he was Jaime?
His name was Jaime.
Oh,
but
wow.
he said he was tired of correcting people all the time. Right? I mean, then you like slowly. I mean, what's more painful, correcting them all the time, or people getting it wrong all the time?
I guess it just depends, sort of like the moment.
Right.
You know, like I don't care if the Starbucks barista calls me Jamie. Right. Which happens every single time.
Right.
Sometimes, so I started saying Jaime with a J because they've gotten Jaime with an H.
Right.
Yeah, literally, I got one that said Hyme once. I was like, what in the world?
What name do you think that?
Like,
I mean, we all want to name our kids after our favorite things, but that's not.
Right. But if like I'm being introduced to, someone,
an audience, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. You just say it's Jaime.
Am I even saying your last name correctly? Because I think you might be the reason I used to call Esmeralda. Her name is Esmeralda Leon, but I used to call her Esmeralda de Leon, and now I realize.
Yeah, I'm de Leon.
It's you and Ponte are the two reasons.
Ponte, right?
I do that.
Ponce.
Jaime, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you and Abby Sanchez for 10 years at Pilsen Stand Up.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Very much. Yes, it's flew by.
Yeah, and it's a great room. I died there miserably last time I was there. Full disclosure, folks. I ate it hard. I had to follow Erica Nicole Clark. I specifically came in and said, don't make me follow Erica. I know myself.
I blame Abby.
I know. Abby said, screw her. She doesn't call it. She doesn't get the pick. That's fine, Abby. I see you.
Plus, you know how comics are. They go, can I go first? I got like 6 other shows.
Right. That wasn't what I was doing. I just knew that.
No, I mean like other.
Yes.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
The worst.
So that's why we had to. Otherwise, yeah, we probably would have had her last.
She wasn't leaving. She stayed for the set.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she was eating.
What a jerk.
It was Abby. It's okay. I forgive you, Abby. But I think that the worst thing I've seen in regards to comics saying I have to go I'm going to go up. I used to host the all-women showcase at Zanies.
Yeah.
And I hated it when comics would do that. They would beg to go up earlier, right?
Yeah.
They would leave, and so would their friends in the audience.
Oh, my God.
I don't.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, I will. They need seatbelts. I will strap them down to those chairs.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's not
It's just
cool.
rude. Just very rude. So what inspired you and Avi to team up and create Pilsen Stand Up?
So I actually started it at a different bar before that, at a bar called Martin's Corner in like West Pilsen. And you came there once.
I believe it.
Because some friends of mine who were part of like a Latino Alumni Association from
Oh, yes.
Mumbai.
I remember. I did do that show. Yes.
Yeah, we're doing a fundraiser, and they asked you to come and perform. And so I had the show there by myself first for like 2 years before I moved it to Simone's. And then when I moved it to Simone's, I actually we formed a team. It was like me, Abby, Sydney. You remember Sydney at Denny? Yeah.
The hardest name, one of the hardest names in show
Right.
business, yes.
And Mickey Housley.
And both of them moved away from us.
And Amy Shanker.
Okay, also moved away from us.
Right. So
I guess we keep
we're
doing
the
this.
only losers still left in Chicago.
No. You bring up an interesting point, though. One, what a great team of collaborative comics.
Yeah.
I adore every single one of you. But, I remember it was a comic, and I've been doing this for longer, I think. I've been doing this for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And there was a comic, Amy Crossfield, in I want to say the late 90s, we were doing a show, and she was talking about how she was moving to New York. And, doing comedy in Chicago is like being in high school, and you have to, I'm like, okay, take it down a notch.
Right.
But we stay for different reasons. One, I do believe that we can create careers here.
Yeah.
Successful career. And we do. I don't just believe. But also, I love my city way too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, did you grow up in Chicago?
Yeah.
Where'd you go to high school?
Quigley South.
Oh, I like how you almost winced. Quigley South.
Because it no longer exists. The Archdiocese closed it when I was a junior.
Oh, so you were still in school?
Yeah.
And they closed it?
Yeah.
They were done.
And then but Quigley North was still open. Mm-hmm. Over on like Chestnut and Oak or Rush around there.
Oh, I remember this,
right by Loyola.
Right.
And the water tower. So I did my last year there at Quigley North.
I think we were just talking about this maybe less because it was a beautiful building if I recall correctly.
Yes,
it
it's like
cathedral.
Hogwarts.
Yes.
Yeah. It was awesome. Like the swimming pool was like old school. It was like in the basement. And there was like no floor on the ends of the pool. It was just wall.
No.
Yeah. But it was cool. Yeah, fun there.
You can still smell that chlorine, can't you?
Yeah.
I mean, because when it's in a room like that without good ventilation, it stays with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it was a really like old like building. Their showers and everything was just a trip. But it was cool doing like 1 year there,
Yeah, it's kind of like studying abroad.
Yeah, right.
In your own city.
Yeah.
I think more people. We did that in the 80s, 70s or 80s. I went to Anahan over here. I know you, as you can imagine, all white school. I was fine, but they did it like a trade. We traded a week with Wildwood, another incredibly white school. They had tennis courts there, and they had this big field and stuff, and they had a science program for the grade. I was like, I hated it because I'm like, oh, this is the stuff you can't have.
Yeah.
So I think for me, and this is such a weird, I just realized this. For me, I think it was a moment where I realized what it must have been like for the kids who were bused to our school. Mm-hmm. Imagine them when they were, these kids who were coming from black and brown communities, having to leave their own community, their neighborhoods, their friends, their families, to travel an hour to Norwood Park.
Yeah.
Right? To go to school. And then you can't stay here. It's a safe neighborhood, and we don't want you here. Get out. It's a mess.
Yeah, my Quigley South, my commute was almost an hour because I grew up in Little Village. So I had to take like the 26th Street bus to Western and then Western all the way south to 77th.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, it was totally different neighborhood.
Yeah. I went from here to Lane Tech. I took 2 buses and a train to get to there was no way, and I don't care what anybody says, there was no way I was going to Taft. And I got measured for the skirts at Res, and with all due respect, the Catholic school future was not for me. Did you go from grade school, from kindergarten to graduate to all through high school and Catholic school? All of it.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Pretty good. I'm pretty good.
Still put together all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. I was one of the lucky ones. One of the ones the priest found unattractive.
Stop. Well, but I mean, like, you bring up an interesting point because I don't know. Okay, so let's go right into this. I don't know if you're comfortable with this because what a weird segue, but it also reminds me yesterday a Republican in the Minnesota legislature introduced legislation for DJT syndrome to be considered a mental health condition. And then today has been arrested for propositioning a teenager. I'm not kidding you.
I did not see the last part. I started reading the headline.
Yes.
I didn't know what he was arrested for.
I believe it was a propositioning. Let me make sure that I'm reporting this correctly.
And this is like days after we learn that one of Trump's spiritual leaders, that other reverend guy, got also busted for sexual assault.
Yeah.
Was it? Right?
Yeah. And this, by the way, propositioning a prostitute who is a minor. So
the other guy.
This guy from Minnesota. But your guy, I believe it was sexual assault.
Yeah. I mean, what do they say? Birds of a feather?
And every accusation is a confession.
Yes.
Right. Well, but I think that although maybe he brings up a good point that it's not DJT syndrome the way they intend it. It's the people that are in the cult. And I would say that could possibly be a mental health situation and he needs assistance.
Right? Yeah. It's instead of what they would describe as something that liberals suffer.
Yes.
It's basically the what do you call it? The disorder that allows them to be sucked into this insanity.
I mean,
right? Like it's so funny because like I think that everything is being laid out for them in such an obvious way, right? Like how much more, right? Like what we were just talking about, these folks that Trump surrounds himself with that are perpetrators of sexual assault, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's also maybe a coincidence that, or not a coincidence, that he's also never released the actual Epstein files,
that might be the case.
Which are probably destroyed by now.
Yep. Yeah, we're talking more about that. We're hanging out with Jaime De Leon. He and Avi Sanchez are the producers of Pilsen Stand Up, celebrating 10 years at Simone's. When's your next show?
Tomorrow night.
8:30
p.m. Showtime.
Excellent. We're going to be right back after this. You can give us a call if you'd like to join the conversation, 773-763-9278. More conversation when we come back on WCPT 820, Heartland Signal. Nailed it!
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining me as we continue to drive it home. I'm joined in studio by my guest co-host for the first hour, Jaime De Leon. Jaime, is it Am I even doing?
Of course, come on, stop.
My Spanish is terrible.
I'm sure it's not the first. I'm not the first Jaime you know.
That's I for years said my own last name incorrectly because I didn't grow up saying Vasquez all the time. So my mom came up to me after years of going by my stage name Patti Vasquez, her maiden name. It's Vasquez, not Vasquez. Vasquez. So if you hear me in promos, you hear me say it because I know it's going to play a bunch, and she'll hear it. Mm-hmm. So Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
It's a very important distinction.
It is. Well, the Vasquez is.
Oh no.
People get mad at me. I used to work with a woman at another radio station who's like, "No, I married into a family and they go by Vasquez," and I was like, I can't. You're too blonde.
It sounds like what they do to my friend's name. His last name is Guevara, and they call him Guevara.
No, I always ask people, "Do you say quesadilla?" That's not how it goes. Jaime and Abby Sanchez are celebrating 10 years of stand-up at Simone's for their 10 years of Pilsen stand-up. And who's on the show tomorrow night?
We have the fiercely funny Kristen Toomey.
Yes!
Kristen Toomey. Sorry, I said Kristen.
See,
Kelly Howard.
Nice.
Also.
Yep,
Beast.
badass. Yep.
Susana Rodriguez.
Yep.
Very funny lady. Jessie Rios.
Nice.
Very, very funny Latina. And a couple of guests will probably be popping by and doing a couple sets. So,
outstanding.
Yeah.
Don't look at me like
we're
that.
Excited.
It's too far away. I live 2 blocks from here.
So, looking forward to it. And then we're gonna have a party afterwards. Music will continue.
Now
karaoke.
I think I make it down there for that.
Yeah, karaoke night afterwards.
How do folks purchase tickets or get more information?
We're pretty bare bones. You just show up at the door. $10 cover. We take, what is that, the Square?
The Venmos, the Zelles.
All that stuff, yeah.
And where's Simone's located?
960 West 18th Street on the corner of 18th and Morgan in the country's coolest neighborhood, which it has been officially designated like in a magazine a couple years ago or something like that, Pilsen.
Yeah, love it. Let me introduce. Now, Jim, I have to know, have you been able to take some deep breaths since our conversation yesterday, Jim? How are you doing? You're on with me and Jaime de Leon.
I caught a break. My cigars from Philadelphia finally showed up today. So
your cigars showed up? Okay.
Yeah, they finally showed up. I was going out of my skull. Jaime, I got to tell Jaime a story. I had friends who went to Quigley. But I had a Father McCarthy in our family. He left $500,000. Anybody in our family want to become a Catholic priest? And I had 65 first cousins, and at least 30 of them are male, and probably had 2 hot piano loonies to become a priest. But my buddy was a priest I've been with for 20 years. And every now and then we'd be stiff, and he'd say, "Well, why don't you just join up and get to $500,000? You can always quit."
True.
Yeah.
But I said, I can't. I can't even catch that. But anyway,
no, wait, Jim, hold on. My husband's aunt offered to pay us $20,000 if we named our first son, and I keep getting this wrong. I think it was Augustus, which is not a bad name. I just didn't want to be bribed. It wasn't what. And to Jim's point, like I should have taken it and just changed his name later. Like Gus. I mean, Gus isn't terrible. I don't know if it was. I'll have to go back. I have the letter somewhere offering me $20,000.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was like some ancestor's name from like the 1800s who might have been a slave owner, and that was the other problem I had with it. I believe the stationery said from the desk of a Republican with also a.
Well, that's a deal killer. That's a deal killer any day of the week.
Really did.
Okay.
Just the name. Yeah. Just the name Republican gives me the willies. But Patty, it's just every day is a brutal news day. Every day is a brutal news day. But again, I have to say that we have to show civil disobedience. We have to get in the streets, and we have to outwit them. If your opponent has got like these tech bros that have billions of dollars that want to control the population of the world, apparently, you've got to outwit them. And please believe me, greater odds have been overcome with the proper. If we outwit them, and we have to, we will outwit them. We have to outwit them because this is too excruciating to go through. it's just too excruciating to watch.
You do sound much calmer than yesterday, Jim. I'll be honest. What were you going to say, Jaime?
Well, I got the cigars.
Jim, did somebody in your family take him up on that offer?
No, I had a couple of unscrupulous cousins, and they put it done it. But I didn't even think. No,
nobody did it.
They like I said, they had hot Panaloons, and none of these guys would, they couldn't go through celibacy. Mm-hmm. But anyway,
right.
That was the hang-up. I mean, perhaps no.
Yeah. Well, that was it. Well, yeah, sure. Really, a lot of guys. I had friends that went to Quigley, and they got their, senior year, and they were like, too interested in girls,
Yeah,
and that's the way it goes. But oh no, without the cigars, I'm like a madman. But
you sound much better. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. But anyway,
well, Jim, let me ask you a question. I was telling Jaime about this off the air about Chief Justice Roberts' statement today, which we never hear from him. I thought that was, he gave him he brushed him back from the plate.
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. But they created this master, Patty.
I know. The Supreme Court has a hand in this. I agree.
Well, they created this master. And then they give him this authority to run wild. But it isn't. He's not. So one of the guests today pointed out that who's the vice president?
J.D. Vance or Musk? Which one? or Trump? I think it is. Yeah.
But Vance is completely controlled by this Keel character, another Afrikaner.
Yep.
Yeah, he's completely controlled by him, and he believes that democracy is a failed institution, that the technocrats should take over the world, and money should rule the world. He would throw his own mother under the bus for a cup of coffee. And that's how bad this guy is. For money. He'd do anything for money.
Yep.
But anyway, I'm just.
I know. Jim's disgusted.
It's easy to feel that way.
I can't even tell you. I can't.
Yeah.
It's incredible because I grew up in the 60s. And in the 60s, honest to God, we were, for civil rights, we were in the streets. We were in the streets for the war on poverty. We were in the streets for, at the end of Vietnam. We realized it was a French colony and so on and so, we came to light. And we did get change. We did get change, and we did it on our own.
I know.
And I expect the American public to wake up and start this, because I think if one person leads, you'll get better. People will follow. You need some good leaders in the street.
I hear you, Jim. True. Thank you so much for calling. And I think that there's so much that's different about now when we think about what Jim was talking about, civil rights, or even going back to World War II. There's a lot of distinctions. One, that we are placated by our little devices. We're checked out. We're not, but that also connects us. It's sort of a strange push and pull.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And we've been complacent for a lot longer than the generations that came before us, I think.
Yes, it's true. And, you think a lot of folks would say, well, it's that, in many respects, there's so many Americans that are just well off enough.
Yes, that's the other thing. And they're not hurting yet.
It hasn't really
sunk in.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Let's talk more about this when we come back. 7 seconds late. More after this on WCPT 20, Heartland Signal with Jaime de Leon. Union Strong Chicago continues to lead the way with progressive values and in preserving democracy. Your support of the Minocqua Brewing Company Super PAC efforts in Wisconsin and beyond strengthens the fight against MAGA Republicans. You can now purchase progressive beers like Labor Lager, Love Wins Fruited Sour, and the Resistance IPA in Chicago at Rogers Park Provisions, Diversity Beer, Wine, and Spirits in Lakeview, Park West Liquor, Wine, and Beer in Lincoln Park, Logan Square Liquors, and Tip Top Food and Liquors in Westtown. Visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com for all their Chicagoland locations. As always, no matter how bad our sports teams are, please drink responsibly.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. I'm your host, Patti Vasquez, joined in studio by my guest co-host for this hour, Jaime de Leon, along with Abe Sanchez, who are now celebrating. Well, Abe's not here, but he and Abe have been running at Pilsen Stand-Up for 10 years. Their former partners have all fled for, I think Mickey went to Texas, right? Houston. And then Sydney Denny went to L.A., and Amy went to New York. He's just scattered them all over the place.
Yes.
And we stay here. Have you ever thought about moving?
Not really.
No. I mean, yes, that's a lie. I hated it.
I thought about moving when I retire.
Sure. Where would you go?
Like a small coastal town in Mexico.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I'm not sure which one.
Do you have an account just dedicated to that?
Not really.
No.
I'm terrible with... I mean, I have a pension.
There you go. Well, so now, do you have like family connections in Mexico?
Yes. Most of my aunts and uncles and cousins are in Monterrey. And then I have some family, but they're very senior in age in San Luis Potosí.
Oh, nice.
And then some near the border in Reynosa.
Okay.
And then other family in Texas and California.
Because my mother is from, my mom's from Mexico, but she became an American citizen, I believe, in 1970. And one of the things that's come up is, I don't know what the process is for dual citizenship, but we've thought about that. In particular, for me, I would love to be able, if we can do that, if it translates to me and then my son, in the event that things go horribly south.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to have a backup plan, is all I'm saying.
Yes.
Although Mexico might start making it harder because they know we want to get
right. I think they have
for American citizens.
Right.
Yeah. But speaking of which, you were mentioning during the break that it's frustrating how much there isn't progressive Spanish speaking radio, and Roosevelt can attest to that. Roosevelt. Oh wait, Roosevelt. Hi, you're on with Jaime de Leon. What's going on, Roosevelt?
Hey, how you guys doing? Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely. Roosevelt, Jaime was just saying that it's frustrating that there aren't more progressive shows in the Spanish language, and you listen to those stations and call in to try to set the record straight when they clearly are leaning right. Is that would you say that's accurate?
First of all, Jaime.
Sí.
We're paisas. I'm from Nuevo León, too. I got family, all kinds of cousins older than me, in Monterrey, but we're from Agualeguas, Nuevo León, Reynosa. I know Reynosa, all that, Treviño, Cerralbo, Ciudad Mier. Are you familiar with that, or you were just raised here in Chicago all your life?
No, I would go to Monterrey a lot, almost every summer. So I spent a lot of time in Guadalupe, where my grandfather lived, and had family all over, by La Villa, by San Nicolás de los Garzas.
San Nicolás de los Garza.
So, yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time in Reynosa. I probably visited one of my mom's sisters there a couple times, but yeah, I don't know Reynosa area, mostly Monterrey.
Okay, this is sidebar here. Since you mentioned Monterrey twice, 2 or 3 times, do you know of a restaurant? It's been there like 40, 50 years. I don't know how old you are, but there's a restaurant that serves nothing but goat's heads with frijoles a la charra on the side. Do you know of it?
You're talking about in Monterrey?
In Monterrey. There's several of them. You know of it? Have you been there?
There is one famous one that an uncle took me to one time. Yeah, to have cabrito. You're talking about cabrito.
Yeah, but the head. It's just the head.
It's just the head. No.
Yeah, the head with the... it's got the tongue, the eyes, the whole shot. But what the key is it's served with frijoles a la charra, which is like pico de gallo.
Oh no, that's a family favorite.
Okay, what do you know about machitos? Because I was raised in a small town, right? Like I used to help. I was the youngest. Yeah, I was the youngest, Patty.
Yes.
Patty, I was the youngest cousin, and my job, whenever they sacrificed a goat or a lamb, my job was to collect the blood. What they do, I don't want to gross anybody out, but, you got to sacrifice an animal if you're going to eat. Anyway, so they would turn the animal upside down, then they cut the neck, and I would take like a...
Oh, and drain the blood, right.
Collect the blood, yeah, because you make like a stew with the blood.
Yep.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was my job. And my cousins used to laugh because I was the littlest, so I would get full of blood naturally.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the animal takes time to die, so the animal, just like, I don't know if anybody's familiar, just like chickens, when you cut their heads off, that's hence the chicken without a head saying. So the animal, it's moving all around, and I would get full of blood. And my cousins used to laugh at me because they, my uncle had a ranch, had animals, horses, and everything. So
my husband just texted. He goes, "Is Roosevelt trying to test Jaime to prove that you actually know the area?"
No.
His familiarity with the blood products.
Actually, I'm not from Monterrey. I'm from a small town. But
Steve wants to know if this is a how Mexican are you test for Jaime. I failed years ago, Jaime.
The reason why I said this to Jaime is because he mentioned Monterrey. And whenever anybody mentions Monterrey, I'll never forget the two things. One is that restaurant that serves the goat's heads with beans on the side.
And now none of us will forget it. Go ahead.
and the other one, in Monterrey, I had the best hot dogs and the best pizza with shrimp. Jaime, have you ever had that? I don't remember the name of the pizzeria, but man, that was delicious. Anyway,
no, I'm not surprised. Monterrey is a international metropolitan city. They got everything.
By the way, the top 10 list of best food cities in the world came out. Of course, New Orleans number one. That's partly why I'm addicted. But Mexico City was on the list as well. It's amazing. Roosevelt, I can't make this a Roosevelt segment. What are you calling about, my friend?
One thing that came to mind is I was trying to search it, and I finally found it. And if you could expand on it, because this was brought up on Jonas Esposito's show, the gentleman that was arrested by ICE. I believe his name is Abel Orozco. Him and 22 other people were rounded up, and it was reported on all the major channels, Channel 7, Channel 2, Channel 5, and erroneously. And I believe that they were arresting people simply because they have tattoos. And that was one of the stories that Jonas...
Are you talking about sorry, go ahead.
It's even worse than that. They're deciding who is a gang member based on tattoos and shipping them off without any due process.
Yep.
So talking about social folks.
He's from Lyons, Illinois. So that was yep.
That's the one. Mm-hmm. That's the one.
Wow.
So, and then there's been other cases.
He's lived here for 27 years, built a business, and now everything that they own is in jeopardy.
Wow.
And once it's out, it's hard to, like the genie's out of the bottle.
Yep.
And it affects everything. It affects your safety. It affects all that. So, that's what they're doing. They're destroying people's lives, and it's basically the same thing. I mean, what did they know about Latinos? ICE. They're just going to round them up. And who knows that knucklehead is giving the orders. What's his name? The guy in charge, the czar?
Holman, yeah.
Yeah.
Holman, yeah.
So who knows what
I remember that because of Holman Square here where people get disappeared too.
That's right.
That's why I always remember it.
That's right. The black site.
Go ahead.
Roosevelt, I've got to be able to get to another call. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm on a stricter clock these days. There's bets at the station that I can't make it to my breaks. Thank you, Roosevelt. Let me get to. We're done with is how Mexican is Jaime?
Gold blood soup Mexican. I know about it.
I actually love blood sausage, but
yeah, that's good stuff.
It's so good. At any rate, Paul in Seattle, you're on with me and Jaime de Leon. Are you staying hydrated, Paul? That's what I ask people instead of how are you.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Hydration is very important.
Yes. What's on your mind?
Well, I think with the situation with deporting these Venezuelan immigrants to El Salvador is so much more serious than people are really giving
understanding. Are you saying because they clearly ignored and now are trying to say, oh well, it was a verbal order, so we don't think it was a real order, and we don't have to pay attention to that, and then spreading all this about how they should be impeached and all these other issues. Jaime was telling me that now people are going after, or Musk is targeting family members of judges.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, they're acting like this is a misdemeanor or kind of minor constitutional infraction. This is a major unconstitutional infraction because the Constitution, people have to understand, it's not written for American citizens. It's written.
Paul, it's a lot of background noise. Paul, I think did you fall? Are you going downstairs in the way of the wind?
No,
sorry.
There's wind coming through the window like crazy. I'm sorry, I'm not actually in Seattle. I'm somewhere else. I'm in your time zone, actually. It's windier in hell here.
Yes, I would agree with that. But at any rate, this is, I agree. I've got a lot of messages, including our friend Scott Stantis, who, as you know, is a recovering Republican who thinks that we're done. If the Constitution means nothing, if our judicial system means nothing, then the all bets are off. And I hope, what are your thoughts, before I let you go, your thoughts on Justice Roberts making that shot across the bow today?
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear what he said.
We'll talk about a little bit more when we come back. I've got to take a break here because like I said, I'm being held to a stricter clock these days. Everyone's so used. Thanks, Paul. Everyone's so used to me playing fast and rules with the clock, but now I have to be all consistent and stuff like that. We're in studio with Jaime de Leon. He and Abe Sanchez host and produce Pilsen Stand-Up, celebrating 10 years tomorrow night. The show is at Simone's, featuring Susana Rodriguez, Jesse Rouse, Kelly Howard, Kristen Toomey. Am I missing anybody? I don't know.
Special guests.
And special guests. Let's take a break here. We're going to continue our conversation when we come back on WCPT 820. Heartland Signal. 3 seconds late.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities, in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Jaime de Leon, who is a co-producer and performer and all the things for Pilsen Stand-Up, along with Abe Sanchez. And their 10th anniversary celebration tomorrow is at Simone's. The showtime is at 8 o'clock.
8:30. People should arrive about 8.
Arrive around 8. Get your cocktails. They got great food.
Yeah, the food's good.
Such good food. And they've got some great comics plus a party afterwards. Maybe I make it after. Steve, can I have a pass for tomorrow? I'm door knocking in Wisconsin all weekend. So I'm leaving Steve behind for like 3 days. So I don't know how much I can get away. At any rate, you and I were talking about off the air about how there isn't a lot of progressive talk shows in Spanish, but you didn't even know that we had this station in English.
Right. What do I know? There's probably 100 progressive Spanish talk shows that I've never heard of.
I was trying to talk to Roosevelt about, he wanted to talk to you about goat's heads and blood soup, and I was like, Roosevelt. At any rate, so what would you say? I mean, we've got to get people to know that we're here. So if you could just tell one person, we'll just do it one at a time. Oh, yeah,
for sure. No, I'm going to listen now.
Okay, cool.
And call in.
And come in. You're one of the...
No, I'm going to call.
Everyone's mad now because they're like, he gets to come in? I didn't even know you were here.
And now that I know Jim and Roosevelt... I'm a part of
Paul in Seattle. You're all hooked in.
I'm a part of the circle of trust.
Exactly. Well, here's Steve in Chicago. Hey, Steve, you're on with me and Jaime de Leon. Man, everyone's outside today. What's going on?
Just heading home.
Awesome.
So I wanted to chime in on a historical aspect of this whole deportation issue that we should be aware of. If you study history, back in the 30s and then again in the 50s, we had a similar batch of deportations, and it was the same kind of just wholesale grabbing anybody who's brown. And it's been recorded that thousands and thousands of natural-born Americans were sent to Mexico and were never able to get back in because they didn't have any of their paperwork with them. What's even scarier is, so obviously Trump's going to continue to do that, and if the courts let him get away with it, what's to prevent it from going, that Patti Vasquez, she's kind of mouthy. Maybe she's a terrorist.
Steve,
maybe we'll snatch her up and send her to Mexico.
Steve, so hold on a second. Don't think that doesn't cross my mind. And secondly, don't freak out my husband. Every time we go down this path, he's like, okay, enough, I got it. I am not unaware of the possible dangers, not just my name, what I do, who I work for, it's all out there. I as you know, I have no shame in sharing my opinions and
I'm the same way. Believe me, I'm terrified. I have to go to Texas for a wedding in October, and I'm like, Am I going to get out there a lot? Because I can't keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, I know. Take care, Steve. Thanks for calling in.
Have a good day.
Thank you. And then we have Tony. Tony is on with me and Jaime de Leon. Are you staying hydrated, Tony?
I am staying hydrated. How are you guys today?
We're doing okay. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. I hope I'm not yelling into my phone. Sorry about that.
I always feel that way. I know I could take it down a notch. How's it going? What's on your mind, my friend?
You know, I was just thinking, like, after the election, what was very surprising to me was how many Latinos voted for Trump. Just, it blew me away, and I started learning more about even people within my family that I didn't know did, but I kind of suspected afterwards that they did. And it was, I'm interested in more of, like, following up on that and figuring out why that is. But to ask you guys here, like, do you think it was just misinformation? Is it just we're just out of touch with some Latinos? You know, Latinos encompass a big segment of our society. We're not all the same. We come from all different backgrounds.
Yeah, no, we were just talking about, you know, Spanish progressive radio, and, you know, at the break I was saying to Patty that the Republicans easily won the messaging war, right? It's almost as if, I don't know, 6 years ago, you know, they were in a room and created a strategy, and part of that strategy included shaving off 10 percentage points from Latino voters, right? And they decided this is how we were going to do it, and they just went hard with that messaging on Spanish. They you know, bought Spanish radio stations. They created opportunities for right-wing Spanish media, and then just flooded even TikTok, right? Like, I had a friend who was a teacher at an alternative high school, and he had like 18-year-old Latino kids born in Mexico saying, "I hope Trump wins." And my friend would say, why do you hope that? And he's like, "Oh, because Kamala's dumb." Why do you think Kamala's dumb? "Oh, because I saw these videos on TikTok." Yep. That's it. Yeah. That's it, right? And even though that kid couldn't vote, that's how pervasive this onslaught was by the campaign. And then when you already have sort of some Latinos that are socially conservative because they're very Catholic or what have you, you know, and then you just exploit that, and anyone could be victim to a campaign of fear. Yep. Right? And since Latinos are so family oriented, right, it's almost easier to scare them. It's like, oh, you know, look at these prices. You can't afford this stuff to feed your family. You know what I'm saying? Look at that. You better vote for a change.
Do you think the messaging of what's happening now, with as our friend mentioned, you know, in Lyons, Illinois, you know, Abel Orozco, and there's a lot of people. The stories across the country of people being picked up just because of their tattoos, because they're speaking Spanish. This family that was separated, this 10-year-old girl with a brain tumor, she was an American citizen, but her parents weren't, so they sent her back too. I mean, do you think that are we going to be able to get that message across as to what it means, what the fallout, what the results are of electing of Republicans?
I think there's room to be better at telling those stories. You know, I think we need to tell those stories even more. You know, as much as I'm still sort of grateful for a CNN, they just fail so hard sometimes, you know, like so hard, right? And I saw this clip this morning that just pissed me off so much. Like, Ana Navarro tried, but like it was like one tiny moment. Basically, what they've been successful at is creating the narrative that all of these quote-unquote illegals are murderers and rapists. Right, and so when you watch a panel, a round table, that they literally say those words like 10, 20 times, and it's like nobody ever stops and says, "Hey, wait, can we at least acknowledge that the vast majority are humble, hardworking folks that just want a better life for their family?" It's almost like we forgot to say that. Right. You know, it's like instead they have us saying over and over again, because I heard all of the like Democratic voices say, we're also for deporting criminals. What makes you say we're not for deporting criminals? We want murderers deported as well. Why are you even like focusing on that? How about focusing on the folks who are not and the way they're being treated, right? And then I had to remind everybody of like those two stories, one you just mentioned, the little girl in Texas going for cancer treatment, her father's deported. This other little girl who commits suicide because she's being bullied at school because her parents are undocumented. This guy you just mentioned from the suburbs, like those are the stories we need to tell, and if like liberal media was intelligent and all, they'd be like just focus on those stories in the same way these jerks wouldn't shut up about young white women who were killed or raped by undocumented men. Yeah. Okay. Like that was just like driven. Like everybody knows those names. Right. Nobody's gonna remember the names of these poor little Mexican girls. No. So anyway, I got a little heated there, but when I watch like,
we love it. This is it. That's why I wanted you to come in, Jaime, because I've been watching your posts on social media. Tony, right? Tell them to preach.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. We're going to keep having these conversations. I'm going to make sure that Jaime comes in more often. Again, at least. Thanks.
Had to end on the bank.
Thanks, Tony. Have a good one. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you. You do the same. Keep it up. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Tony.
Appreciate it. So, will you come back and play again?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure. I'll get here on time.
You were fine. You were fine. I know how traffic is. This is Jefferson Park.
I always underestimate how huge the Northwest Side is. It's just like going to a whole other city. Like, damn. Jesus. I've been going west for half an hour. Like, what the hell?
We're a bit, and plus this is where the angled streets are, which is disorienting too. Once you're on Milwaukee and Elston and then all the, like, the Foster side, like, it's bejangled over here.
Yes.
It's janky.
Gigantic.
At any rate, you can always stop at the Superdog, before you head out of the neighborhood. It's about a mile north.
Oh, I just had one last week.
Oh, did you really?
Yes, because I actually have to pass by it every time I go home, and I never do. But last week I did this weekend I did a show in Belvedere, Illinois, with Jose James Montero, and on my way home I was just like, I'm gonna do it this time.
That's good stuff. Well, Jaime De Leon and Abby Sanchez, the producers of Pilsen Stand Up, celebrating 10 years tomorrow at Simone's. Get there about 8ish, and show's around 8:30. Yes. And we loved having you in. I look forward to having you. And where can folks follow you on social media? They should be keeping up to date on the things that you're outraged by.
Yeah.
Because they are too.
I'm a regular old guy on Facebook. It's I don't even want to direct people to my ex account because all I do is like swear at people.
They might enjoy that. They might actually enjoy that.
So yeah, Facebook, Jaime De Leon, Abby Sanchez, Pilsen Stand Up, and where there's a party after the show. So even if you can't make the show, come for some karaoke.
We'll see you very soon. I think probably in the next week or so.
Awesome.
We'll take a break here. We're going to talk to our friends from Are You Really Winning in the way back in. March is Gambling Awareness Month. We'll be right back on WCPT 820, Heartland Signal. 3 seconds late.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. I am your host, Patti Vasquez, and we want to say hello to our friends listening in the evenings on KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Joining us here in Chicago, broadcasting on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. You can also catch us on the TuneIn app. Download that. You can listen to us for free, or you can watch the live stream on Facebook or YouTube. And if you go to the Patti V Show page, we also stream the show live there. And today I want to encourage you to please check out my new Substack. You can link it there. It's my very first chapter of the memoir I'm writing, Chicago Girl. What Were the Chances is the first chapter. And all these conversations are made possible, both the work that I do on Substack and here at WCPT, by our sponsors. We want to thank everybody. Of course, we want to thank Minocqua Brewing Company, who's been there since the very beginning. We'll be broadcasting live from the Madison Tap Room on March 25th. Go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and subscribe to the newsletter, because when you do subscribe to that newsletter, and maybe put in an order for some coffee, some woke coffee, maybe you support columnists like me. So thank you very much for that as well, Minocqua Brewing Company. We also want to thank our friends from Kids Above All. Go to kidsaboveall.org and support their mission to help children live happy, healthy, safe lives. And we'll be working with them with a stand-up comedy show in June. So stay tuned for details, featuring first, I believe me and comedian Paul Farber will be on that show. We also want to thank our friends at Source Solar. Go to source.solar and find out about the great work that they do helping folks out, whether it's retail or your home. home, find out if it's the right time for you to get solar panels. Over 100,000 satisfied customers in the Chicagoland area. And of course, our newest members of the family, Are You Really Winning? We have been talking to our friends from the Way Back In. Joining me in studio is Anita Pindur, the executive director of Way Back In and Are You Really Winning? It is March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and joining us on the line is Dave Wall, executive director of the Illinois Council on Problem Gambling. Hi, Anita. Hi, Dave. How are you guys doing?
Hi, Patty.
Hello. Hey, Dave.
Hi, Patty.
Hello. I hear you're driving up from Peoria, my friend.
I'll be driving up on Thursday. We have a conference at Rush University on Friday. So
you have a conference coming up, and I know you've got. So is this a symposium that we received information about? Because I know that when you get together and collaborate with folks and share more ideas, I'm excited to know that you're all gearing up for this.
We're definitely excited. So we put on we try to do 6 live conferences every year in addition to a lot of live virtual online conferences. But this conference, this is our 3rd year for the conference. It's the 3rd annual Rush Problem Gambling Symposium. It's this Friday. It's going to be a great conference. We have, I would say, world-class speakers at the conference. It's aimed at physicians, psychologists, counselors. We always try to hold it in March in conjunction with Problem Gambling Awareness Month.
And Anita and I have talked about, the personal aspects of this. I've shared with Anita and our listeners my experiences. My father was a heavy gambler. Started out as sort of, a social gambler. I would say poker games and going to the racetrack, and it came to the point where he had to claim bankruptcy. He was taking out credit cards in my name, my mom's name, without letting us know. But one of the things that I apologize, Anita, about what the cost for those who are like, how big of a deal is it? Tell us, either Anita or Dave, what the cost is of problem gambling.
So I can jump in, right? If you need like a number, right?
Estimates,
Right, estimates. So we can start with something like the NCAA that's going on in 2024. It was $2.72 billion that were wagered on the NCAA throughout, like the month long of the conference. So we do know the majority of that was not won back, right? Like nobody made $2 billion. So majority of that gets lost. So if we are looking at numbers, that's, those are pretty staggering numbers. Illinois itself reports about $1 billion in sports betting. Again, most of that is not claimed in wins. And when we look at tax returns of persons who claim to be professional gamblers, they usually are reporting a loss at the end of the year.
And that includes not just the money that's lost in the gambling, but Dave, there's also the other aspects of it, right? Tell us a little bit about the side effects that we can also put a dollar amount on.
Well, so it is a dollar amount. So gambling is I don't know if Anita has covered this before, but gambling is it's a hidden addiction because you can look at, you're walking down the street, you can't look at somebody and say, this person has a problem gambling. And a lot of times nobody really finds out about it until it's too late, until they're bankrupt or they've lost everything. One of our conferences we put on, a researcher disclosed that sometimes it takes 10 years for a person to admit that they have a problem or that they're in trouble. And like I said, usually by the time they admit there's a problem, it's too late. They're not going to say, I've lost half my life savings. They're not going to talk about it until they file bankruptcy. They've lost the college fund, the retirement fund. And it's, I think that's why, gambling, of all the addictions, gambling has the highest rate of suicide because by the time you actually get to the point where you need help, you feel hopeless.
And I think we saw this recently where there was a young person who, to your point, people can cause physical harm to themselves, whether it's increasing other addictions or wanting to hurt themselves, right?
It is very prevalent. We do know that the rates of suicide and suicide attempts are at least 20 times higher than that of any other mental health disorder with gambling use disorder. So we do want to, that's why we want to screen. That's why we want to ask the questions. And that's why we want to be there for the person saying, like, it's not that you're necessarily just in trouble, right? Well, let's help you through this. Let's walk through this together versus like, well, you're just a degenerate gambler and you're a terrible, terrible person, because that's not what it is, right? People are ill and people need help.
And that's a big part of it, Dave, when you say is, when you recognize that in somebody else. And look, I try not to judge even the people that, don't want to have anything to do with their family members or are so angry, they're so because it has caused them physical and emotional harm too.
Yeah.
If you can find that space, Dave, what are the ways we can help those in our lives who are struggling with a gambling addiction?
I think, first of all, I am fairly new to the problem gambling field. I've been with Illinois Council on Problem Gambling for just over 2 years, and it's been very eye-opening with gambling. We know about the other addictions, but gambling is it's just part of our society. You maybe play poker with your dad when you're 3. You get scratch offs when you're 5 for a Christmas present, and gambling is such a part of our society that you don't think, gambling can be an addiction, but it really can. And Anita can go into much more detail on this, but gambling addiction has some of the same physiological effects on the brain as the other substance use disorders. And it's not just a matter of willpower. People will say, "Oh, if you have a gambling addiction, just walk away from the slot machine." But that's not how you deal with it. You have to first of all recognize it's a problem, show some empathy, and as you said, don't judge them. Don't look down on them and say, "Oh, you're just a degenerate gambler." You have to listen to them, and really, I think the big step is to get professional help. And the sooner you do it, the better.
And Anita, one of the things that I've learned, even in the last few years for different issues, is how powerful the brain is. And once you have momentum of thinking about what you have to be doing, it's very powerful. Tell us a little bit about some of the signs of somebody who is kind of struggling with this.
Yeah. So what we see often is that preoccupation, right? Sometimes we would call it obsession almost, right? Where you can't stop thinking about it, and you really are thinking about your next win, and you are convinced that your next win will be the big win. I was working with a person once whose main addiction was scratch-off tickets, and a lot of it was trauma-based. He experienced the death of his son, and he started kind of with these scratch-off tickets, and he would do this for like hours at a time. He would really get lost in it. We call them brownouts because they're kind of like blackouts, but you just sort of lose track of time. And he reported losing about $250,000 in these scratch-off tickets. He wasn't financially, he was in a place financially where he could afford it, so it wasn't something where anybody noticed for many years. But what his family started noticing is the lack of time. It's just his disappearing, his just not being present, and that's what we often see as some of the symptoms, right? You will be at a family dinner, but you're not present. You're really not there. All he was thinking was that next scratch-off ticket. And I was asking him, like, what would actually make you stop? Like, what's the whole entire goal here? And he was like, well, once I get $1 million one, right? And I'm like, well, you're like a quarter of the way there already with everything you spend. And so it's not the money. Wow. A lot of times we think with gambling, it's the money, right? And if it's a big win, we'll walk away. And yet we know so many people who win and do not walk away. It is that rush of dopamine, and then it is that needing more and more of it to feel the same effects. And so we see that's why sometimes the NCAA or other sporting venues like this can be so dangerous, because it's just such a oversaturation in such a small amount of time, and you're just constantly in that drive. And then what we see later is the anxiety and the depression, right? We feel depressed because either wins or losses, and then that anxious moment of like, when is going to be my next game, or when is that next gamble, and when is that next win?
And it's so important, folks, again, to give people grace in this situation. And Dave, I apologize because we got to know Anita when she was last in the studio. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from originally, my friend?
So I am actually originally from Illinois. I lived here until I was about 10 years old. Then we kind of moved around for a while. And most recently, I was in Michigan for about 27 years working in healthcare. And I just came back to Illinois. So
yeah. So, and so when you started working with the Illinois Council on Problem Gambling, it sounds like this is something that you've been in healthcare, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily associate, as Anita and I have been talking about, problem gambling as a healthcare issue, and it really is, isn't it?
It really is, and again, so my background in healthcare. Most recently, I was in hospital administration, and I was working very closely with our physician offices. And if you go to your primary care doctor, they hand you a list of 20 pages of questions. Those questions are designed to, do you have a safe place to sleep? Do you have, is your next meal? They're designed to see if there's some problems in your life that they can help you with. And I know there were questions with problem gambling on those questionnaires. And the thing is, if somebody answered yes, nobody knew what to do with it because, again, yeah. If somebody says, I have a drug problem, I have an alcohol problem, those are established addictions. They're, nurses, doctors, they know what to do with that. But problem gambling, they just don't know what to do. So I think sometimes they would actually dread if, oh my gosh, the patient answered yes, I don't know how to address that. I don't know how to help them.
Yep.
And so that's why what Anita's doing with the public awareness campaign, what we're doing with our education on problem gambling, we're just trying to spread the word, reduce stigma, and we don't want everybody in the state to be an expert on treating problem gambling. We just want them to be aware of it and know what to do if a friend or family member start showing signs.
Well said. We are talking to Anita Pandur, Executive Director of the Way Back In and Are You Really Winning? And Dave Wall, Executive Director of the Illinois Council on Problem Gambling. You can call 1-800-GAMBLER for the helpline or go to areyoureallywinning.com. We'll continue our conversation. We have a question from a listener in just a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or
and Pete.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities, in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and we are proud to welcome our sponsors of Driving It Home. Are You Really Winning? Joining me in studio is Anita Pandur, Executive Director of Way Back In and Are You Really Winning? And on the line with us is Dave Wall, Executive Director of the Illinois Council on Problem Gambling. Thank you so much for joining us, Dave and Anita, for this very important conversation. In addition to being sponsors, I've mentioned this before. I was so excited to collaborate with you because excited is a weird word, but eager, I guess, is the best way to put it, because my father struggled with this, and I personally know the trauma that it can cause, both the financial trauma, the emotional, the strains on relationships. And so a listener asks, what advice do you have for someone? Because I was in my 20s, I was very young, and my dad had been gambling. Like it happened. It almost happened slowly but fast, if that makes any sense. Like it felt all of a sudden.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, it was wild. So the listener asks, what advice do you have for someone who is in denial? How do you help them, especially if they are hurting you emotionally and financially at the same time?
That is a really good question, and that's probably can get very complicated, right? There's no one answer. So we talk about being there for that person, and sometimes being there doesn't mean I actually have to physically or emotionally or financially be there for them. One of the first suggestions we do is if you are in any way financially sharing anything, that those become separated, right? Finances should be separated for your safety.
That's why I do it. I did subconsciously. I've always had my own. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. You should be protected because, finances get really complicated and then sometimes it leads to other issues. So we do recommend separating some finances. We do recommend that you can also get some help for yourself. And just like treatment is available to those with a gambling use disorder, part of that treatment is also available to persons with family or loved ones or, kind of those collaborative persons in our lives. And they also can call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to areyoureallywinning.com. I will do a plug for ICPG. I feel like as a board member I should, but Dave mentioned the trainings that are going on. So the one coming up on Friday is perhaps a little bit more on that professional driven, but we have community ones that are really more for persons within the community, and sometimes people want to learn more or take the whole entire, and Dave, you can interrupt me and tell me no, but you can take the whole entire 30-hour training, or you can do some of the webinars that are on the website, just because the more you know, the more empowered you are. And then suggesting that the person themselves gets help. So if that's, giving them a brochure, if that's linking them to the website and having them do a screener, and kind of saying, I need you to get help before whatever part of our relationship. And we want to be there for people, but sometimes being there is not always physical. Sometimes we do need to put in boundaries and space.
Yeah, I agree. Dave, if you want to chime in with some thoughts on this as well, with helping a family member and being a part of the trainings or intervention.
Yeah, so a lot of the trainings we do, we have people in recovery who talk about their journey, about when they were having the problem and how they got help, how they got support. What Anita mentioned about splitting the finances. I almost everyone who is in recovery who does training on our platform, they talk about how about my mom, my grandfather, my brother, they gave me money to get me out of debt, and that actually seems to make and Anita can correct me if I'm wrong, but they say that actually seems to make it worse because they're not addressing the problem. They're actually enabling them to, the problem's gone, so now I can go win that money back. And they're always chasing that loss. And
so, Dave is correct, right? Let's say I can help you pay for treatment, but I can't just give you the money.
Right. I will participate in your recovery. Mm-hmm. Right. In the ways you feel comfortable. This is the thing is that, you can, if I may, you have people who, like, when you are participating in public events, are very dismissive and almost angry about, saying that gambling can be a problem.
Yes. Sometimes when we are at events and we have our table up and we have some giveaways and we have the screener and we have some brochures, and people will come up really excited and they're like, oh, can I have a water bottle? I'm like, yes, just take the screener. And then they're like, well, I don't have a gambling problem. And they throw the water bottle back at me. And I'm like, I mean, you can keep the water bottle. It's just like save the environment. It's just a water bottle. But
that seems like someone who's having other arguments.
Right. I was at one of the Loyola versus Dayton, Ohio games, and people were very angry, mainly the Ohioans, and that they couldn't actually gamble in the game because you can't gamble in college sports in Illinois that are taking place in Illinois. And they're like, well, you can't even gamble. I don't even know why you're here. I'm like, for awareness, for promotion, you probably do need this brochure, maybe take the number. So, it's sometimes people get very angry, and I understand, but sometimes maybe it's just too close to home, right?
Right. I mean, the defensiveness, it's an argument you're already having in your head or with other people when you're coming at sweet Anita with rage, right, Dave? I mean, come on now.
Anita has moments, but
hey, so do I. But you catch me on a good day and you throw something at me, we're gonna have words. I'm not as forgiving as Anita might be. But right, Dave. I mean, that seems like there, as somebody, as you mentioned earlier, when you have a checklist of health issues, I would imagine, to your point about not only is there not some sort of support once they do say yes, I would imagine just like the drinking and the drugs, people also lie. They're not be like, well, I'm not gonna tell you what I do with my money. Right?
Yeah, especially when it's money, right? So when we ask people about gambling, they might be a little bit more open about it because it's so socially acceptable, and we don't want to dismiss that either, right? Like, we do know it's a very socially acceptable and very accessible form, so everybody kind of participates, and we do know that a lot of people can, and they can gamble just for fun, and they can gamble responsibly, but we also don't want to be dismissive to those who might need help, Or if you are the person who doesn't have a problem, you don't want to be the instigator, the bully who's kind of, pushing somebody else, right?
Sure.
If you do go out with people and they're like, well, I'm out, I've spent everything I have, don't encourage them to spend more. Don't encourage them to stay longer, because they might be setting limits because they might need to gamble responsibly.
Yeah, let everybody go at their own pace. Dave, I was talking to Anita during the break about how, in this neighborhood, a lot of communities, the church groups have the Queen of Hearts and, rolling up the money. And look, I want to go. It's exciting. But, I am somebody who will just drop like $5 and if I lose, I'm like, okay, I'm done. But everyone's different, right, Dave?
Absolutely, and that's that's the thing. It's so ingrained in the community that again, people don't see it as potentially harmful. We've talked about you don't give your 8-year-old a shot of whiskey for Christmas, but you're going to give them lottery tickets. You're going to play bingo, and it's just part of society. So how could it be harmful? If I've been doing it, I did it in church. I've been doing it, with my family every Christmas or every birthday for years and years. So. And like you said, it's with problem gambling. Some people they want abstinence. They have to walk away. They can't do it. Other people, like Anita said, can gamble responsibly. They've learned, or through treatment they learned. I'm going to set a $50 limit. When I spend that I have to quit. But as with any other addiction, if they break that limit, if they keep going, then it can easily spiral out of control.
Well, I really appreciate these conversations, and I'm honored to be able to work with you on this. And thank you for being a sponsor of the show. Dave, do you want folks to know it's IllinoisProblemGambling.org, correct? For
IllinoisProblemGambling.org, or it's actually ICPG.org.
Okay, great.
On our website, we have, like I said, roughly 25 live virtual conferences every year. We have probably another 25 or 50 recorded virtuals on a variety of topics. We talk about youth gambling. We talk about suicide and problem gambling. We talk about gambling in the legal system. We have trainings on different multicultural groups, Black, African American, Asian American. We try to have a variety of topics, to fit everybody's need, everybody's interest.
Excellent.
And you don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be a counselor. If you go to our site, all the training on the website is free, and I guarantee people will learn something. They might not take away all of the content from the training, but they're going to learn something.
Outstanding. And any other thoughts that you want to share before we go, Anita?
I think we want to share that we did put out some brackets on the areyoureallywinning.com website. So if you want ones that have some responsible do's and don'ts on responsible gambling, just maybe sometimes to, maybe look at it, or maybe you want to share it with someone who might, you might consider that they might be having a problem. Those are always good, and other tips in responsible forms of gambling.
Always a great conversation with you guys from way back in. Again, it's areyoureallywinning.com. Go to the website and learn more information. Take a screening. You have a screen there. You can answer some questions. It's also 1-800-GAMBLER. Dave, pleasure to meet you. Safe travels to Peoria, or from Peoria, or whatever it's going to. Just safe travels. I hope the weather is cooperative. And thank you, Anita. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you. We're going to take a break here thank you. And we're checking with Ben Cominos when we come back and learn what's going on up in Wisconsin. There's some crazy stuff and some good stuff. We have a good story. More after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul. Did I say that? Heartland Signal? Yeah, all the things. Hi, this is Patti Vasquez. We appreciate all our fans of Driving It Home, and your support of show sponsor Monaco Brewing Company ensures that our important conversations continue right here on WCPT each weekday from 5 to 7 p.m. You can now find the Resistance IPA, Labor Lager, or the Resistance Pilsner beer at several Illinois locations, including Armanetti Wine and Spirits in Woodstock, Pineapple and Company in North Riverside, Lions Beverage Depot in Arlington Heights, and MP's Liquor, Wine, and Beer in North Aurora. For a full list of Chicagoland locations, please visit MonacoBrewingCompany.com. As always, please vote and drink responsibly.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities, in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
And because we love catching up with all things Wisconsin, joining us is, I feel like I haven't talked to you in forever. It's Ben Cominos, the host of Outside the Box on WHBY. They've got the app. You can go to WHBY.com. He broadcasts out of Appleton, which I love Appleton so much. Ben, how have you been?
I've been great. How was Mardi Gras?
Oh my God! Honest to God, I never would want to live in New Orleans. I'm not never, but I can't get enough of it. That's all I can say. I love.
Yeah.
Have you been?
No, I've never
God.
done it, but the way you described that is how I described Vegas back in the day.
Really?
I loved visiting for a weekend, but I was like, I never could live here, but I really like hanging out here. So I know the feeling, but I've never been to Mardi Gras.
What is it about Vegas that you like? What's your thing? Like just the vibe of it, the shows, the food, the gambling? What do you like? All of it?
Yeah, so I used to go out there for sales expos, and I ended up meeting up with a crew of guys that ended up becoming very good friends of mine that lived in the area. And there was cheap flights from Pittsburgh to Vegas all the time. So we just, make weekends, and, we just gallivant about the town, just
right?
do whatever we were doing. But it's solid.
You got to find some friends. See, the reason, and I will be honest, one of the reasons it's fun for me to go to New Orleans is I have my friend Dr. Susie Flores and her fiance live there, right in the French Quarter. I don't know if I'd be going down as often if I had to pay for hotel. Like same thing. I find a cheap flight,
sure.
It lines up. So I don't know how I got a good flight during Mardi Gras, but it was. Ben, I highly recommend. We'll figure out a way to go together next year. Is all I'm saying.
I love it. It looks like a lot of fun.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm obsessed. But I will say, as you know, I also, I'm a fib for Wisconsin. I was in Whitewater, last week, door knocking on the UW Whitewater campus on Frat Row, St. Patrick's Day weekend. You got to really be passionate about something to show up.
I can only imagine what was on the other side of some of those doors on that day.
Well, they were on their front lawns.
Show.
So, wait, before we talk about anything else, politics aside, I just saw this article today, and it occurred to me, I saw this all over Whitewater on the campus. So the trend for young people now is to carry their own jugs of cocktails. Do you know about this? Like milk jugs.
Yeah, so this is... I'm going to date myself a little bit here, I suppose, but in my neck of the woods in Western PA, we were doing that back in 2003. I just have an empty jug of green tea, and I'd fill it with Hennessy and Hypnotic, and it was a drink called the Incredible Hulk. It would turn green, and it tasted delicious. And I would always be just walking around with a green tea jug of Incredible Hulk when I was 19 years old in Western Pennsylvania.
Oh, my God.
So, I had no idea that this had resurged, but we were there 20 years ago. So, I don't know. I guess welcome to the party to everybody else. But I love it. If it's back, it's classic.
Yeah. It's back. And one of the reasons they're saying, for girls, so that they don't have to worry about, drinking what's in their drink. If someone slips something, they've got their own jug, they're chugging out of it or pouring into their own cup. So they're not there's not a punch, there's not something, people can't slip anything in, which I was I kind of love that. But also, don't drink the whole...
That's a brilliant idea.
Right? Also, don't drink the whole jug, ladies, is all I'm saying, because it won't matter.
Oh, yeah, I was drinking the whole jug. See, that was where we differ, I suppose. But, we used to, I swear, every generation, Gen X drinks more than millennials, millennial drinks more than Gen Z. Gen Z's not into the drinking as much. When I go out, I feel like it's more my age than it is Gen Z.
I'll tell you, something I realized when I was in Champaign-Urbana, I was passing through, I did a gig there, and I stopped at a bar that's been there since I was a freshman in 1989. It was a grad student bar, so you couldn't go until, I think it's still 21 and over, so I didn't go there till I wasn't 21 when I graduated, so I was only ever there once with a friend, and but I was sitting at the bar and I loved it. I'm like, I don't know. And Kathleen Madigan, I don't know if you're familiar with her comedy, but she talks about some of her happiest moments are in dive bars, and I feel like that's pretty much who I like, hanging out at a dive bar. I'm not gonna lie. That's my comfort.
Oh yeah, you're preaching to the choir on that as well. I'm a chameleon. I can just morph into whatever the situation is. But dive bar, especially at this stage of the game, that's my safe space.
Yeah. Now, we've talked about Cleo's before in Appleton, right?
Oh yeah. I think it was like my first afternoon out here. My program director took me out to lunch. He's like, and that's Cleo's. And I was like, okay, it's like a tourist stop. That was one of the first places I went.
Yeah, I mean, I can feel the seats. They have like a wraparound bar stools, I think, if I remember correctly, with kind of like with arms. At any rate, with vinyl on them.
And it's decorated like Christmas all the time. That's the distinguishing factor. Is it's Christmas all the time up here.
It is, but then when it's other holidays, they just put the Halloween and the Valentine's on top of it, I think.
Exactly, yeah. They surround the Christmas stuff, but the Christmas stuff stays up.
Yes, it does.
I dig it.
Okay, we've checked it enough on all the things that I wanted. That's it. We don't have enough time, Ben. Have a great. I'm kidding. Okay, so last time we talked, because you are engaging with an audience that it can be fairly red, but you go at what Democrats are also falling down on, in particular when it comes to accepting money from the billionaires and being beholden to them, and also you push back on obviously what Republicans are doing. Where are your listeners now? Like, are there more people finding out with the fart around part?
Yes, that, and like it pains me to say this, and I'm not punting on my agenda whatsoever, but like the MAGA takes Snowflake to an entirely different level. I've never had a show during the Trump administration. This is my first time doing this. Like, I moved out here in 22. So people only knew me as the guy who would hammer Biden for not coming through for what he said he was going to do. And everybody was fine with it. And there's a ton of MAGA listeners who were absolutely on board with the show. Nothing has fundamentally changed. It's not like I'm saying Donald Trump is messing this up and it would have been so much better with Biden or Harris. I'm just saying Trump's messing it up. And a lot of them don't want to hear it. And it's super disappointing. I'm hopeful that it's early and that, like, more time will go by. But, like, I feel like it's pretty obvious right now. But I'm hopeful that it's only been a month and a half. More people wake up to it. There's a couple people that kind of teetered off right away. There's a couple people that they listen to me and they say, I don't think you're right. Then they research it on their own. They're like, oh, you are right. I'm so disappointed right now. That happens, but it's few and far between right now. But like I said, give it 2 more years. If they don't actually pull their heads out of their you-know-what, I feel like more will fall off. But it's going slower than I would have expected, which sucks.
I don't know why you expected it to be fast. I don't, because I always thought that they would just find a way. One, they would immerse themselves in the lies, right? They'd just be so dripping in it that they can't wash it off themselves. So they may as well swim in it, right? I don't know if that analogy works, but that's all I'm saying.
Sure, yeah.
But,
yeah, I hear you.
Or because they seem to be convincing themselves, because I have so many more. By the way, I talk about the haters on my feed. I've started a new thing where if people slide into my DMs, I will come for them. But in the sense that I'm now dedicating 25 doors for people who slide into my DMs and call me names like a stupid slut or a liberal whore and things like that. So like Peter Crown is one example. I will now be showing up in Wisconsin saying Peter Crown sent me. He really believes in the liberal ideals of protect.
I'll tell you, your listeners, the mean ones, see, because you're exactly right. I have definitely gotten more hate as of January 20th and beyond than I was before, without a doubt. But your angry listeners, like I did 2 shows down there, and the meanest comments I got were when I did your 2 shows versus anything I've done up here. So it definitely is something with the demographic, because I got hammered by some people, and like up here it's like Midwest nice MAGA. You know what I mean? It's like, Ben, I respect our difference of opinion, but I think you're off on this one. And then I see what you post, and I'm like, oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
No one's talking to me like that. But, like, yeah, again, see, and, like, for me, I guess it seems conceited, but the reason I expected it to be quick is because, like, I have fostered an environment of trust and discussion that I was like, I would hope that if I showed you literally 6 different ways over the course of 12 days that Elon Musk told you something and then showed you how freaking wrong he was, that you might be like, man, if Ben found 6 examples in less than 2 weeks, maybe there's something to this. Like, it just seems like there's such a path to it that it really shouldn't be that difficult. And some people are on board, some people at least placate, but overwhelmingly, and again, strangers coming out of the woodwork, I don't know if it's astroturfed or what, but just like your comments, people are getting aggressive a little bit out there, but I mean, it means they're listening, right?
Well, they're listening, and I think the outrage is crazy. But like one woman slid into my DMs and told me to F myself, and I just gotten back from buying St. Patrick's Day groceries, and I went to her timeline, and she was looking for corned beef because the stores were out. So I took a picture of myself in front of my refrigerator with my corned beef and made a video. We're calling this.
I had one guy. I'm not laughing at this part. Nobody got injured, but somebody set Glenn Grothman's office on fire, and someone hops underneath it and says, "I bet he's an avid outside the box listener." And I was like, "What the hell? You're gonna get me on the list?"
Jeez, I'm calling my new adventures Petty Patty. My mission is to.
Oh yeah, you know what? That's the thing, though, when you go at people that have a platform, it's like, if you're mean about it, I'm absolutely going to dismantle you in, like, a very public way. Like, you know what I mean? Once you send it to us, it's fair game. So you send that, and you can use it however you want.
This is my thing, right? My son last night, he's like, don't you think that's like cyberbullying? They came into my message box, right, my DMs with this hate, and I'm supposed to be like, that's interesting. No, I'm coming for you. And we laugh about the petty patty part, but for me, it is like holding people accountable and saying, look what you did. Like when a dog poos, you rub their nose in it, right? That's to teach them a lesson.
Right. I don't say last names. That's the only line I don't cross. But, like, I had a guy, Robert, ask if I was man enough to admit that I was wrong about this transgender mice garbage. And, of course, I wasn't wrong. And I probably dedicated 30 minutes. I was doing voices. I was giving them nicknames. It was just relentless while I was proving a point. And it's like, he sent an email to management later. They said, we got your back. So, you just give it right back to them.
Yeah, I did not have that kind of, I had that support here, previous radio station said I was taunting listeners. I'm like, the things that people would say to me, Ben, like one person said they were pro-life, but the amount of time I spent talking about my disabled son, they wish I'd had an abortion. Seriously.
Right. No.
And the station's like, maybe, because I would say things like I would say like a rant, and then I'd say go in grace, and they're like, you're taunting them. Yeah. They just told me I should have aborted my son. I'm going to,
I am definitionally taunting them. I'm glad you recognize that. I was laying it on pretty thick.
Well, you mentioned the transgender mice, which was transgenic and all different studies altogether. This is the thing that I don't understand why it generates so much vitriol, so much hatred over people who are such the most marginalized community in the country. However, there was a hopeful story out of Wisconsin, wasn't there? I saw this video today. Tell us a little bit about this gentleman.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't want to say it in a rude way. It's a tale as old as time, right? We don't understand what somebody else's life experience is like until you actually take the time to learn about it. And there's one individual, I don't remember the exact area of Wisconsin he was actually commenting in. I don't know if you have that information in front of you, but he essentially said he came out there with the intention of being against different transgender procedures for minors, and then after speaking to a couple of young people going through it, he had his mind completely changed. I mean, I don't know if you have the audio or not, but we have people at our station that said, we have a transgender person, and she talks to people that are weird about it and that work with us, and then at the end of it, it's not like they're best buds, but they're like, honestly, I have a different perspective I didn't have before. That's always how simple it is. Like, it stinks we have to hold this up on a pedestal, but it is nice to see the change in perspective when it happens.
Yeah, I don't have the audio on the board, but we'll play it probably later in the week because if we could it's painstaking, one at a time is what I'm saying. Because you even mentioned
it's just like, see, you're in a legal state though. You don't even think about it from that perspective. I have boomers call me literally crying when I'm doing legal marijuana segments because they're like, I was so anti-weed until my daughter got diagnosed with this thing and she wasn't herself ever until she smoked weed and then she was my daughter again. And they tell you this heartbreaking story and it takes every fiber of my being not be like, okay, I'm glad you're here, but like now if some of you can just get there without the life-altering experience, that'd be great. Like, because inevitably you'll end up here. So like, can we just get here now? Yeah. It's so many of these culture war issues.
It really, it's astounding to me. What are you hearing about the Supreme Court race? What's your sense of how that's going after Elon Musk has poured over $12 million into that race?
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly in the Fox cities. I can't comment. I actually was in Milwaukee over the weekend and I saw some signs, but it's not like I got a lot of buzz one way or the other. It seems like there's a bit of fatigue up here. You don't really hear a ton of people involved. We have some like local races as well that'll probably gin up a little bit of extra buzz in the Fox cities. We have some Winnebago County executives, things like that. Honestly, Patty, much like the presidential election, I would never bet what's going to happen. But fundamentally, I think this is going to be a pretty big litmus test for how many Dems are still ticked at the party versus are the Republicans mad at Trump's first 2 months? Are they taking their foot off the gas? Mm-hmm. There's so many factors to consider with this. And it kind of seems after that debate last week, you go online, all the Republicans said Schimmel killed it. All the liberals said Crawford killed it. Everybody's retreated to their corners, and it's just who shows up more.
Yeah. I was going to try to do one long segment, but I already blew past what I was supposed to do for my time. I was doing really well, Paul, wasn't I? The first few, but now I've gone long. So can you stick around for the last segment of the show, Ben? I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I have more questions. I have more things to talk about.
Yeah.
We're hanging out with Ben Cominos, the host of Outside the Box on WHBY. You can download the app, WHBY, or go to the website, WHBY.com, and listen to his shows. We'll talk about Monaco Brewing Company and the work that we do there, because Ben is kicking the poop out of me when it comes to his percentage of getting money out of that, and I'm not. Let's take a break here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities, in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
Before we wrap it up with our friend Ben Cominos from WHBY's Outside the Box, I want to thank folks who have subscribed to my Substack. I was really nervous. Ben, I just launched my very first Substack. I'm not doing politics on that, not necessarily, not right now at least. I'm writing a memoir called Chicago Girl, and I'm like, it's been really hard for me to get it started, and I'm like, all right, maybe if I start putting excerpts on Substack, and then even that decision took me like 3 weeks to actually execute, because I was like, no, next Tuesday, because I don't know, I just had let perfection get in my way, and I finally just put it up, and the response has been really, really wonderful, guys. So thank you so much. It's Chicago Girl, Patti Vasquez on Substack. There's free subscriptions, obviously, and thank you to the folks who've already paid for a year. Now that's pressure, Ben. Now it's like, oh, I better follow through on this now. So there's accountability. And
It's like the gym membership, right? You get the year-long membership. It's like, well, either I'm out $50 a month for no reason, or I can go to the gym. It's the same idea. So.
No. Well, so it's so funny. I was going to set it up to do every Tuesday another chapter, and then I was like, maybe we'll just go gentle and do it every other Tuesday. But I might do it every Tuesday and then post and things like that. So thank you, folks, for subscribing. Ben, what were your thoughts today? I mean, I think for you and me. Things are happening really fast, aren't they? I mean, like, it's hard to grab onto the one thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and more importantly, the MAGA supporters that still call will be like, he's just so good at it. We don't know what he's going to do next. He's always doing something different. And I'm like, yeah, to what end, man? Like we're not the enemy. Like what you're describing is like what you do to somebody in war.
Yes.
Like why is this what you want? I don't understand why. What has improved? Like that's the crazy part. Like take that next step with me, my man. Why do you like this? What happened?
Because he's saving us money and getting rid of the fraud. I don't care if there's no charging documents or any proof. It's just, okay.
I can't even take until you attack. There's certain parts of defense and Medicare Advantage with so much obvious fraud. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but that never crosses their mouth. So like you can't believe them. They're like, I found $7 million in condoms, and it's like, get out of my face.
Yep.
Here.
Before we go, did you? What were your thoughts when you heard about Chief Justice Thomas? I'm sorry, not Thomas. Roberts, basically brushing the president back from the plate through an inside curve. Did you see this?
Is this something I'm refresh my memory here? It might be something I missed.
Oh yeah, no, Chief Justice Roberts dressed. I'm sorry, why did I say that twice? Because that sounds gross. It's not Thomas, Roberts. It is Roberts. So he rebuked Donald Trump today. He basically said that Trump and his minions need to hold their horses. I mean, that's in other ways. For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. After Trump and other Republicans threatened U.S. District Judge James Boasberg over his order this weekend, temporarily blocking deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. So at any rate, Roberts.
Well, I mean, what are they? I can find you 42 million Americans that were pretty ticked off that we had to cancel student loan forgiveness after Biden got it through because of a judge. So, like, I don't understand where this logic came from, but get that out of here. Yep. No time for that.
Yep. Ben Cominos, the host of Outside the Box on WHBY. Ben, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll talk to you again very soon. I know I got to come back on your show, so I promise not to make it too long.
Yeah, that works for me. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Brandy Rhodes is up next, followed by Matt McNeil. Thank you to our sponsors, Monaco Brewing Company, Are You Really Winning? And Source Solar. Bye, everybody. Bye, Paul. Thank you.